Play, yeah. I think play is really. I don't know. I just love the word. I probably say it quite a lot, to be honest. I don't know. It makes sense in what I do. And then the kind of like this tagline of playful, simple, modular, really works. So like what I do every time a brief comes through or I come up with a design, I kind of run it through those checks. And if it's, if it doesn't tick those three simple categories, I don't deem it as a play project almost.
How are you feeling?
Good, yeah. You're always really conscious of how you sit, aren't you, for a bit? Well, I'll relax into it.
Yeah, I mean, you look good, so.
Thank you.
A bit of confidence before it's
Yeah. That's your style, is it? Oh, yeah.
Go.
Yeah.
We'll start with like a really easy one.
Okay.
Just to get us warmed up into it. Have you always been from Leeds?
No. I'm originally from a tiny little village called Bishopswood, probably about 200 people, one pub, one school, lots of fields. So yeah, childhood was like kind of making dens really and playing out. So yeah, I think about the dens quite a lot, weirdly, because I think my brother was 3 years older than me, and we made this a really good den in a kind of the kind of V of a tree, and it was kind of, I think it was some old planks my dad had, some tarpaulin, and I think maybe part of a broken, I want to say like paddling pool or something. It was just, but it was great. I think it fitted 2 people. I could talk about childhood for ages because I'm like, obviously just had a kid myself, and you kind of really I'm really in a reflective period of like, yeah, should we be doing more of this? Should we be doing more of that? Yeah, looking forward to making dens with Robin in a few years' time. But my dad was like an engineer, so yeah, draftsman, like stood on a drawing board and drew Rolls-Royce engines, so very technical. So yeah, and then my mom worked in daycare, so like not daycare, that's American, nursery nurse teacher. So yeah, childhood memories wise, my dad he's always making stuff. So he did so much in the house and still does. Yeah, he's had this, so famously had this. I need to dig it out really. It's a blue book, we used to call it, and it was all his drawings and his like projects in. I think most of them are incomplete, but a lot of them he did. I remember my dad like holding a bit of wood, like, or putting my knee on a bit of wood while my dad was sawing. I guess if you're exposed to that, you kind of understand it, or it kind of disillusioned the kind of, someone makes it, and it's easy, relatively easy to do if you know what you're doing. I think just my dad probably just working on things all the time just exposed us to that really. Maybe they weren't creative, they had a creative output, I think, and my mom was very creative with the children, and she always was involved in all the kind of, craft stuff at nursery. So yeah, not traditional like makers, but I think there was a creative strand to them, definitely. Yeah, high school was really important for me, I think. I was on a trajectory of being an architect. I think that's where maybe, not that my parents were ever forced me to do, but like the vision was, do architecture. And basically going into my second year at A-level, I found maths really hard. Around the same time, I met some other friends in the sixth form room who were just like listening to really interesting music. So they'd put on like, I don't know, Mogwai, they'd put on Godspeed You Black Emperor. This is kind of, it'd get turned off quite quickly. As soon as it played, people would turn it off. And then we got talking, and then basically they said, come to the art room. And I didn't know this part of the school existed. And I just remember like this fond memory of walking to this art room, which was big, open plan, smelled amazing, like a mixture of, I don't know, crayons, paint, terps and everything. And the teachers were really great, and just the atmosphere, you could listen to music in class. And light bulb moment in my head, I switched from maths A-level to art, and I think music, these guys I'm still in touch with now, yeah. And we then went on to being in a band. They're still in the same band, and one of my vivid memories is it was the bell had gone, and Ben was halfway through. He just pressed play on a cassette of Low, a band called Low, a Secret Name album, and he's fast forwarding it because he wants to show me the last track, and Will the Night Last Forever, and it's just like still one of my favourite tracks ever. And we're listening to it, my mind's being blown, and I'm thinking I'm going to miss the bus. And then I just remember the track finishing, us sprinting. We made the bus in the end, which was amazing. And I just think that wouldn't happen in a maths lesson, I don't think. but yeah, so I think that decision was a good decision.
Were your parents supportive of it?
Yeah, really supportive, surprisingly supportive actually. And I think they've never had, they just want me to be like any decent parent. I think they just want me to be happy, if you know what I mean. Yeah, for me that was probably the fondest memories of my whole childhood. Like, well, not childhood necessarily, but school time, if you like. After my A-levels, art, really enjoyed that, and they said the next step is to go on a foundation. I think everyone should do a foundation year, like whatever you want to do in your life. You basically have a year. You do fine art. The second week you do sculpture, you do ceramics, you do fashion. You do all these little things, and then basically they just, in the nicest possible way, they rip you apart. They rewire you, is probably a better way of saying it. While meeting all these incredible people, and then you specialise in your final year. And I chose fine art because fine art seemed to be really open, like you could do anything. I mean, to say I won Artist of the Year would be true, but that blew my mind that I kind of won art. I remember winning Artist of the Year at the summer kind of celebration. And I think that just gave me so much confidence. But then you go to university. And I think looking back, I think I did enjoy my time at university. I love Sheffield, a massive soft spot for Sheffield. Over those years, as I'm reflecting back on them now, I think I just loved trying everything out. It was a bit like you could just try anything. There was no real pressure. I guess that's what I like about art, is it's just open, it's just an open field. I basically then, after the university, I kind of worked in galleries and kind of putting on exhibitions, and part of my job was kind of putting on the show. So there was exhibition design in that. I was okay with woodwork, basic woodwork, although never trained. And then it was my friends, Marcus and Katie. I went to university with Katie. They decided to open a cafe in Manchester called Trove, and basically just invited me over to basically fit it out. And it was one of these kind of, looking back, it was just like mad. I turned up with nothing. Marcus had a couple of blunt saws and some scaffold boards, and we just went to it. Like, it was incredible. Like, we just made some stools. I remember making some stools. We made a communal table, which was like, just kind of out of recycled kind of materials, and it was just really satisfying. We worked through the night, got it ready, and then and then it opened the next day, and it was just like, that's good. People are sitting on, and I think that kind of definitely planted some kind of seed. And then Trove, basically, they did well after a year or whatever. They decided to refurb it, so they invited me back, and this time that was my kind of, I guess, my first project. It was kind of thinking, right, what should we make it out of? So, and I think, plywood made sense to use as a material, and we just kind of, had a go. But I remember the satisfaction of, again, working with Marcus quite closely, and just like the next day, worked a couple of nights on it, and then just like the next day, people coming in, ordering a latte or whatever off a legit coffee shop board, thinking like we made that. Like, that's quite a nice feeling. I got a job at the Hepworth Wakefield and was gallery manager there. But most critically, I think I got the job 9 months before the gallery opened to the public. So I was very fortunate, like once in a lifetime opportunity, I think, to work on the final fit out of a huge world-class art gallery, working like closely with the fit-out company and then the architects. So famously, I tell this story, but I sat in a meeting about, if you go to the Hepworth and you go down the toilet corridor, there's the lockers, the wall of lockers. I sat in a meeting and they were discussing the type of lock they were using in the lockers for 4 hours, and I was just sat there. It was like watching a tennis match. And obviously the architects win out because, and these locks are expensive, but something really slight like that is like, that was a big learning curve. But more importantly, the architects, David Chipperfield architects, used a product called Valchromat at the time. So it was a beautiful new product from Portugal, and it's kind of like an engineered board that has like it's kind of made from recycled products, mainly plant extracts as well. So they kind of, all the colourings is like natural fibres, and it's 100% recyclable as well at the end of its life. And they used it to clad the walls and make furniture out of. And I just remember like just the confidence in material and design. Like there was nothing, like there was literally one material, sheet material. There's so much design, like such a simple design. There was like, you couldn't even see, there was no design almost in a way. And again, I just think that definitely informed me. Everything that David Chipperfield did for that gallery, I then obviously lived and worked in that gallery. Well, not lived, but I worked in that gallery and is in that environment for near 7 years, maybe 8 years. But seeing these design cues every day, and like the details, definitely has a massive impact on what I do now, and still does really. So yeah, the Valchromat, this new material that was around at the time, the sales rep kind of sent me some samples, which were really lovely and tactile, and I could then give out to other architects or other gallerists. I remember one day he said he had some bigger samples, the A4 samples, and this really, again, one of those moments where the car boot opens and it's just full of colour, and I didn't even know at this point that it came in colours. And so I remember taking these samples. More often than not, I would take a tote. I remember loading a tote bag of as many as I could carry on the train at most nights back home. And what then happened was I had a system, had a material which was 8mm Valchromat, all different colours, A4 samples. So that was really important to me. Then I had the 8mm the thickness combined with 18mm ply felt a good ratio. And like pretty much, I mean, occasionally I'll change for weight reasons, but that's been my kind of palette of materials. And yeah, Valchromat comes is set in a color palette. Every 2 years they release another color, which is always exciting. But yeah, so in terms of design, I suppose it's like what I've been talking about in terms of, or thinking about today. It's like, it's open-ended in the sense what I can make, but I've got a restriction. And then also with my woodworking skills, that they're not like, I'm not a traditional joiner in the sense of making dovetail joints, or I'm not that actually interested in carpentry. Oddly to say, it's more about making objects, and the most simple or effective way of doing that. So combining colour, form and materials, I think there's a lot of possibilities still with Valchromat, which is like, dead satisfying. Plaey came about through a bit of luck really, and when I started making furniture, so I was still in employment, I was doing a bit of furniture jobs on the side, kind of trying to find my feet and understand, and then it was one of those, it was a classic moment on Twitter. So when I studied in Sheffield, there was a Designers Republic. We're doing a lot of great work out of there. One of the main designers was Michael C. Place and his wife Nikki had set up Studio.Build. Kind of when I was during the time when I was at university, I think. So I was following their practice anyway. And just one day it flashed up on Twitter that they were moving, because Michael's from Yorkshire, they were moving back up to Leeds. So it was one of those kind of like, oh, welcome back. I think I could find the exchange, but I think it kind of read something like this in a classic Michael way. We need some furniture for the studio. Looks like you need a rebrand. So we met for a pint and just instantly got on really, and become really good friends since. And then there's a follow-up meeting I remember in their studio with Nikki and Michael. Basically they just had we had a cup of tea and we just talked about what I envisioned my company to be. And I said the word play quite a lot. I've said the word playful. I said simple quite a lot. I said modular. So they came back with Plaey being the brand name and the tagline being playful, simple, modular. We make playful, simple, modular furniture. And and Plaey was spelt with a Plaey, which definitely confuses most delivery drivers, but other than that, it's fine. And basically, if you look at the logo, the A and the E are like that form the face. So yeah, and Michael's genius design, obviously, and it's still mind blowing that I've got a logo designed by Studio.Build. I don't want to be too gushy about them on here, so I'll just get the piss taken out of me down the pub. But I just think they're like, yeah, I can't express how much it's helped my business. You know, it's like, it gives me that boost, especially, well now definitely, but especially in the earlier days when I was starting out. And it's opened a lot of doors for me. When we launched Plaey as a brand, we had an opening launch at Colours May Vary. Those two worlds combined, like bringing me into the design world. Colours May Vary is a really loved shop in Leeds, that it's got a big fan base of like-minded people. That was really good exposure. And then yeah, from there, like I say, there's been so many projects off the back of that. But then I'd say bigger than that really is that what I love about our relationship is that Michael feels and Nikki feel like kind of mentors really to the business. And he'll often come to the workshop just for catch-ups and different things, but a good friend, good collaborator, good person to drink with, good person to be around. So yeah, I think that's enough fanboying over Studio.Build. So Plaey at the moment is in quite a nice position in the sense that we've got Plaey Workshop, which is mainly at the moment specialising in working with museums and galleries, which is a really nice area for me. Obviously my background's in that, so I understand that world. So I just love it. You know, it's really nice. It's nice for me, and it feels full circle. One of my most successful pieces is the Hepworth art pods and explore and draw units, and it was one of my first jobs when set up Plaey, I guess, or first commissions. And what's nice about that, because I knew the Hepworth team, we'd worked really, really closely on it, and we made these art pods and we made these explore and draw units. They're really successful. And looking back, the Hepworth did a really brave thing, I guess. You know, to put normally galleries, the education or the learning centres are like pushed away or given a small space, and what the Hepworth decided to do was to put these resources in the galleries that families could just help themselves to. Sometimes they're manned, you know, with activities, but more often than not, the explore and draw units are just sat there. Then other galleries would go and see it, visit it, and then I'd get other commissions based on that. Just recently made one for the Tate and National Trust site. So I love, one of my biggest joys is to make something bespoke for a place. And then there's the kind of, I've recently split up the workshop, 2/3 of it being the Plaey workshop stuff, and then the other third is kind of my play area really, where I get to play. So if I need a break from what I'm doing, I'll just go there. Or I like to try and spend half an hour a day, and it can just be like, I could just see a pile of offcuts and stacked up in a certain way and think, oh, that looks like a nice, I don't know, nice vase or a nice bookend, and that really excites me, you know, like to then have, yeah, if you're inspired by those little gems of ideas, that the dream is that they'll then form back into the kind of Plaey workshop main area. So yeah, that's where I'm at the moment.
So what's the dream then?
Yeah, the dream. I recently got approached just to design something. And I struggle, to be honest, I struggle calling myself a designer. Like I'm Matt, or I'm an artist, or a maker. I'm dead comfortable with makers. I definitely make things, but to call yourself a designer is, well, it's a big step for me. And but the design days, I really liked. Say some like a brand like Hay, who I love everything Hay do, and I love their ethos. So the ability to kind of be paid for the design, to then prototype something to then send out to manufacture would be the dream, I think. Especially if you were working with a brand like Hay, for example, to be part of that family or something like that would be incredible for me. So yeah, but I don't know. Well, it's a big dream.
Big dream.
You gotta dream big. So then cut to that, and then we're at the Hay party. Yay!
So you recently become a parent.
Yeah.
Has that kind of changed how you work in any way?
Absolutely, yeah. So recently become a parent, and it's definitely changed. Changed lots of things, but yeah, in terms of design, really has changed. So we've got my friend, your friend of mine, Mr. Rob Walker by Umberto. When Robin was born, made me this sign, which means so much. I mean, you know, it means so much anyway, just as a beautiful sign, incredibly made by Rob. But I think I look at this sign, it's in the workshop, it sits here, and I look at it most days, and I think like, there's something in this now, like, because I'm with Robin, my son, and we're doing some drawing, and I'm looking at his drawing thinking, that could be that's a nice idea. Yeah, I was thinking about once he's old enough to get a chore jacket, I'm gonna definitely get him down, and get him down, and not collaborate with him, but just kind of have a play with Robin. And again, hopefully, I think the naivety of what I do is something that like I need to remember, and I think having Robin is certainly at this age now, it's that quality of my work. When I started Plaey, it was very naive. Obviously, it's grown into a business, and people, you know, I feel like I'm getting better as a designer or maker, more polished maybe, but there's a naive quality that I need to kind of bring back or keep that kind of energy, really. I think hopefully that's going to bring that back into the fold, really. And I just can't wait to get him down here, and when it's safe enough to do so, and just have a play, really. And just, I don't know, like I guess like full circle to what we were talking about earlier about, you know, my dad just, you know, probably didn't think about it at the time, but he was just making stuff around the house, or, you know, cause that's how they could afford to do it or whatever. And but yeah, being exposed to that stuff was really good for me, and it's like so hopefully I think hopefully I can do the same for Robin.
Well, perfect way to end.
Yeah.
Such a lovely sentiment.